Hey guys, what's up? It's Marie with Swipe in the City. Welcome back to another week, another episode here. We've actually got something a little different in store for you guys, which we're really excited about, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Michelle, want to kind of give a little context? How's your day going?
It's been a good day. It's Saturday. To give a little context, we are recording this in February and hopefully also releasing this in February, which, if you don't know, it is Black History Month. And as two white women, we decided that the best way for us to respect and celebrate this on this podcast was to bring on voices that were not ours. And so today we actually have a panel for y'all, and we are so excited and thankful, and can't wait to really dive in here. But ultimately, we wanted to just share voices and perspectives that we are not here to represent. We cannot represent, and we can never understand. And so we want you to hear it from people who are, experiencing being Black and dating in 2020, 2021. And yeah, I don't know.
And
I'm already getting
well, and
emotional. It's
I
ridiculous.
know. And I was like, I really want to just iterate for everybody listening and anybody who may feel some type of way about this. We're really coming from a place of love and respect here. These are our friends. I know I speak for myself. I think I speak for Michelle as well. We consider ourselves allies. And we just want this to be a safe place for people to feel like they can share their stories. And Swipe in the City as a brand is not just a place for me and Michelle and our stories. It's a place for everybody. And so we want to be inclusive, and we're really excited that we are joined with some amazing humans here today, some great friends. Shall we start the roll call?
Yeah, let's do roll call. Erin, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so my name's Erin, and I'm single. And I'm originally from Texas, but grew up in California and moved to Austin about 14 months ago. And if anyone wants to hit me up on Instagram, my Instagram handle is erinsimone. And that's it.
Slide into her DMs. She is
Yes.
a queen. She's also very funny.
And I was going to say her handle, her name written out is Erin in all caps. And so every time I read it, I scream her name, as if I'm Erin. And I'm so excited to see her. So it just gets me hyped every time.
I'm so thrilled.
Excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
See, I read it as earn, which is
It is Erin, and there's a story behind that, but my name's Erin, so people see Erin in all caps, but it is Erin. And I've had people come up to me and be like, Erin? And I'm like, my name's Erin. But it's a long story.
We'll get that later. We'll get that in the appendix of this in my normal formal work talk.
Perfect.
Love it. Dante, you want to give us a little intro about yourself, babe?
Sure. My name is Dante. I am single. I lived in Austin for about 8 years now. Love it here. It's a great city. And if anybody wants to find me on Instagram, my handle is Dante_ATX.
And I feel like you have an adorable addition to your family who people can also see on Instagram.
Yes, you will see my dog Rhodey frequently in my Instagram posts, usually my stories, and it's mostly him sleeping because that is his favorite thing to do. So if you follow me, there will be a lot of sleeping Rhodey content.
Which, speaking of, if you're watching on video, Blue is behind me in Christmas PJs dreaming right now. So he's pitter pattering his little feet on my back.
It's a nice little massage for you. And Artis is one of my work homies, work hubby, friends, all that jazz. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's up? My name is Artis X. I've been in Austin for almost 3 years now. I am a singer, songwriter. Actually, I have a single that is available on all streaming platforms, titled Selfless and Selfish. As a matter of fact, if you want to check me out on Instagram at rusticreign, that's RUSTICREIGN, the link is in the bio there, so definitely check it out.
It's an awesome song too. Very applicable, I feel like, to just dating in general. So, Michelle, I feel like you have something to say there.
Oh no, I'm excited to check it out. Well, I was like wanting to dive in a little bit more to everybody's like current dating situation, but I think that comes out in our next couple of questions, right?
Let's jump into it.
All right. So our first question would be in dealing with, and we're making an assumption here. I'm assuming everyone here has been on a dating app at some point.
Yeah.
Yes? No? Yeah. Okay. There was like a delayed nod there.
We can't go out. Like, that's what we need to interact.
So the first question is, have you ever encountered bias on the dating apps? And then like, if so, how and in what ways? Dante, go first.
Yes. Yes. A very quick, easy yes. It is very frequently that you will see on apps. I mean, I know we're going to get into this later, but I am gay. And on gay dating apps, you very frequently will see a nice, little message to anyone who reads the apps of no blacks. They will be very quick to put that in there in the profile, without any problem. And then should you, by some chance, maybe they swipe the wrong way or something like that, and you do match and you start up a conversation, they will let you know in there, in your conversation. They'll very quickly be like, swipe right on accident, not into black guys, and then very quickly, block you. So people are very upfront about that. And I can tell like y'all look like, people look kind of surprised. Like I know it's surprising for people, but it is, it's actually kind of prevalent. Like you'd be surprised like how people will, kind of outline their profiles. They'll be quick to say things like no blacks, no fats, no Asians, no femmes. Like they are, and of course they put, I'm not discriminating. That's just the preference. It's like, if you're refusing to talk to another human being because they're black or Asian, you are a racist. Like you're like that's not a preference. Like that's you being racist.
There's a difference between having a type and outright saying fuck you if you're this, which is what that feels like, is how it sounds.
Oh yeah.
Erin, I feel like you had follow up to that.
That's just wild to me, and I'm sorry you have to go through that. I'd be like, I get over dating apps because I'll have it for a week, delete it, get bored, get it for a day, delete it. Like, the only thing I come up with is like and I'm guessing we'll touch on this, is being kind of a fetish, but that's more of what I get on my end. But yeah, that's about it.
Artis, have you experienced any of this on apps? Like this outward, because it's not that I'm saying it's like preferences are, people have preferences, right? Like some people like people who are thicker, some people like people who are thinner, right? I don't want to say like, oh, this or that, but people have preferences. But there's, I think, a difference between like preferences and like what Dante is saying, where like people are literally putting it in their profile. Like they're essentially saying like, hey, if you're this, you're a piece of shit, which is it doesn't blow my mind because people are so rude and insane, but it makes me really sad.
So, I've never been on Tinder, but I remember, like, because of the fact that we go through our generation, we have seen from house phones all the way now to phones on our watches. But I remember like Black Planet and like little weird apps. Like was it like tagged or like things like that back when I was younger. And I think what that did was kind of like shape my mindset to how people viewed preferences, if that makes sense. Like, and because of that, I was just naturally turned off. Even when you look at my social media now, like I'm very, what's the word? There's an aesthetic to like how I present to people, because and like understanding that. So I'm like not really on those apps, and if I am on those apps, it's like to genuinely network. So I don't think me dating using I'm too much of a people person and around too much people to be on a dating app to try to get to know someone. If that's the case, then there has to be a set motive if I'm going to be on that app. If I'm trying to get some booty, then I'm trying to get some booty. Like that's really what it would be. And I'm not there. I'm not there, so I don't need to be on that.
That's fair.
Y'all said we could be real here. So
no, that's what I'm saying. Like that's fucking fair.
Oh, we talk. I mean, we don't really talk about fucking on this show, but you know,
we.
Oh well, I'm single. I'm single
now.
I mean, our number one most dedicated listener is my mom, but you know, she prays for me. It's okay.
Moving right along.
Hey, mom.
Hey, yeah.
Right. Hey, mom.
Hannah. So, Erin, with like the bias, like you mentioned feeling fetishized, and this is something Dante you brought up too, but like Erin, what has that experience been like for you, or how do you see that? How does that like come across?
Yeah. Well, men, specifically, unfortunately, white men, love, like at one point on Tinder, when I had Tinder years ago, I actually had on my profile, like, not on your bucket list or not for your bucket list, because that was the only thing on my profile, because men would be like, oh, I've never been with a Black woman before, or like that was constant. Like I would get 3 of those a day. So I actually had to change my profile to be like, yo, this is not okay. Like, I know you're going to come with this, so I'm just going to let you know right away. That is not a conversation I'm going to have with you. That happened all the time on Tinder. I will say it happened where I grew up. Dating online and through apps in Austin is a totally different vibe than what it was living in Orange County, California. I love Austin. But that was one thing and it's a conversation actually that my mom had to have with me. Just kind of like, you know, when you date outside of your race, these are things that might happen, or like sometimes it's a fantasy or a fetish, so you need to be careful. So yeah, that's been my experience with apps and feeling like a fetish, and it sometimes makes you a little defensive. So when you meet a genuine person, you're kind of questioning them to see what their motives are. And so I do find myself getting to that point just based off the experience that I've had. But yeah, that's been my experience.
And I can understand that. I get the same thing. That is the opening line whenever you match with someone on like Bumble. The first thing, I've never been with a Black guy before, or my least favorite thing and this is an instant block for anybody out there. If the first thing you say to me is it true what they say about Black guys? We're done.
Yeah, it's unmatched.
That's it. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize that's not a compliment. That's actually really disrespectful and pretty dehumanizing, actually, because when you reduce Black people down to nothing more than their genitals, essentially, like, you're basically looking like an animal. Like, like I'm a slave on the auction block and you're like measuring my for sale or something. I mean, it's really disrespectful whenever people open with that, or when that's all you want to talk about, when that's all you want to, like, I think, because that's what it is. It's that bucket list moments. Like, they want to check off the box of like, well, the Black guy, like, well, congratulations. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's like, we are human beings, like, and also I have this time filling out this profile for you for you to ask me that. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how would any of you like respond, or would you respond? Like, would it even be worth it to you to respond to somebody like if they said something like that to you? Not even worth it?
I used to, because I am like, the one thing I have is my mouth. Like, I will tell you off. And then I thought to myself, it's not even worth it. Like, people are ignorant for a reason. It's not, at this point, they're past teaching. So I block you, leave you on red, report you. Like, no, it's not even worth having a conversation with people.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like at this point, I used to be the same way. I used to try to have the conversation with people and talk about that. But I also think maybe it's just as I get older, or as you kind of experience it time and time again, you just get tired of it. It's like, I'm tired of having this conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, you have the same Google that I do. Get on Google and you'll know why that's disrespectful. So yeah, for me, it's a block.
That's fair. Would you ever, like, if you had somebody that you thought that was like a really good friend, and somebody that like, and maybe they didn't like mean that to be like offensive, how would you kind of address that type of a situation?
If you're a friend,
that's tough. Yeah.
Well, all my friends know if they're my friend, they're not going to go they're not going to go there with me.
Fair.
And I have friends who have had conversations like that with me, and they didn't speak to me for months. Like, I needed a moment to cool down and reevaluate the situation and reevaluate our friendship. Because if you're someone who has those feelings or says those things and you're my friend, it's not even you in the wrong. It's me for not realizing that you were that type of person, because people show who they are. So it was me ignoring that you were that type of person before it got to that point, you know? So if it's a friend and it's someone I've cared about, and especially after 2020, I don't give history lessons. So, I mean, if you care to come and apologize and talk about it, I will talk to you, but I'm not going to tell you why you were wrong and forgive you. Like, you went there yourself. Like, you can deal with that by yourself.
I would like to add on to what Erin's saying. I think part of it goes to, like, for me, whenever I like notice those sorts of things, I get kind of nervous, because I always think about like you had to learn that from somewhere. Like, what are you a product of? And so it's deeper than me trying to say to you, like me thinking I can teach you, and in this moment you're going to get it. No, you came from years of literally being cultivated to thinking this is what your truth is. This is what our truth is, and it's not. So.
Exactly.
I agree with that. I feel the same way. Like, it's not for us to teach you. And also, it's kind of one of those things that the labor can't be on our backs to educate you on something that you have access to. Like, you have access to this information. And I'm definitely kind of like, Erin. I do like what Erin said. It's good to know Erin will get you all the way together. So it's really that's what I heard. But like, no, but I feel like I'm kind of the same way. I'll pretty much distance myself like from you. Like, I'll have a conversation with you if you want to, like, apologize and like talk through it. But for me, you're pretty much going to be, once that wall kind of comes up for me, it's really tough, to get back around it, because I guess I've just learned time and time again that oftentimes when people do stuff like that, you have the conversation, but they will offend again. Like, unfortunately, like it just seems to have become a pattern,
100%. They'll do it again. They just might not do it around you.
Right.
That's like such a good point too, right? Like they might correct their, or not even correct, but they might change their behavior around you, but they're not necessarily actually evaluating, how they're approaching things, how they're thinking about things. They're just like, oh, I don't want to piss Erin off, or I don't want to piss Dante off. But that's different. That's like almost like band-aiding, or like acting okay in front of one parent while like you're not changing the actual behavior or the thoughts and stuff. And like, to Artis's point, it's for some people, like, there's some really deeply ingrained shit, and you know, there's a lot to work on with that. But it's also like, it's not any of y'all's jobs to, like you said, it is not your job to educate, it is not your job to provide history. Like that's where, again, like, I'm just thankful. I'm thankful you guys are here and sharing this, because I think this is like so important for people to understand. Like, stop asking your Black friends, like, what should I do? What can I do? How do I learn? Like, fucking Google it. Go find those resources. Have meaningful conversations, but go find those fucking resources yourself.
I will say, I think one of the struggles that people do think is like, okay, well, like, I can Google, you know, how to do this, how to do that. And what's going to come to the top of my Google algorithm is going to be based on like my own searches. And so for somebody that has a brain that works with those algorithms, because that's what I've been doing like my whole life, it could potentially, for somebody who understands that, be like kind of frustrating to be like, well, now I'm seeing more things that are only reinforcing what I already think. And so really knowing that you need to change the words or what you're doing or how you're searching in order to see things that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. So I think that's kind of maybe one of the struggles, but obviously, like, and again, like, it's not on you guys. Like, you guys have done so much to try to educate people. Right. So
and
would there be,
okay to pick and choose like who you want to, like, I know when someone's genuine or if someone is like going based off of a trend, you know, because some of the experiences and with what was going on last year, when certain people would come up and be like, or just respond to certain things on Instagram and stuff, certain people who would respond, like, my experiences were like, you led to some of my experiences, like some people who would respond to me. So I'm not going to educate you because you're the reason why I felt a certain way or why I grew up a certain way, you know, but people who are genuine, you know, and like, to have a conversation with them is okay and something I'm always willing to do. But if I know that you just stem from ignorance and you've done ignorant things your whole life, like, I will send you the link to google.com and you can find your answers yourself.
Totally fair.
Sorry.
Well, no, and I think you bring a really good point up, right? About the fact that like BLM and everything has been so trendy. And I think we see a lot of this happening, especially in like media and everything. Where do you guys, is there a line that you guys see, or like, how does that impact your day to day?
The only place I draw the line is like making you feel better about being sorry. Like, my younger brother got so many DMs from people we grew up with apologizing for things they said and things they did. And wow. He just felt that, because what they did was horrible. Like, if you open up my little brother's yearbook, the things in his yearbook and the things that were said to him were horrible. And so you apologizing is, you're afraid that he might say something or say his experience and like mention your name. And he was kind of like, he reached out to me and he's like, do I say anything? Like, I don't feel like I need to say anything. And I was like, no, you do not, because the things, even being young, like, those things were wrong. If you're a decent human being, you know the things that were said were wrong, you know? So I just think it's like, to make you feel better about things that you did in the past is like where I draw the line. But if you're willing to learn, then that's a conversation I'm willing to have with you.
I like that. I can agree with that too. I think you can tell the difference between, you know, someone who's someone who's genuine and someone who's just kind of a performative ally, which you see, unfortunately, a lot of, especially when you dive into social media. Like, you know, I can definitely tell there's some people, you know, on Instagram who, when we have been face to face and tried to have these conversations, it was a shoulder shrug and they couldn't care, you know, less. Now all of a sudden, here comes their black square on Instagram. You know what I mean? So it's like, so you can kind of tell who's being genuine and who isn't. And I think, you know, like Erin said, like when you know that it's coming from a genuine place, like a desire to actually have a conversation about maybe something that they've read or something that they've learned or something that they watched, they want to have that conversation with you. Like, I'm completely open, like, to that. Like, I you know, I kind of feel like we all are evolving, you know, in different ways. So if someone is kind of on that journey and they want to talk to me about it, like that's fine. But I think, like what y'all were saying before, when it comes to that, like, well, tell me what to do and tell me what to read and tell me how to be. I'm not doing that. So
yeah, just don't be racist. And
yeah, you know,
it's simple. Don't be an asshole.
For me, it just happens. Like, I don't choose to have educational moments. Like, it happens through just natural conversation. And it's like give or take with me, because there's literally been times where, like, I had to stop someone. I'm like, hey, we're not about to turn this into this right now. We're not about to do that. Like, we're here for this. Like, whatever you have going on with you that internally that you're dealing with because you're seeing this, like, that's not with me. And I realized, even with I think I talked to Marie about this last year, like when we saw like GoDaddy and a whole bunch of people, like a whole bunch of companies was for Black Lives Matter and everything was going on, everything was like hitting. I'm like, yo, this been going on my entire life. Like, and this is like, everyone's having like this wow factor. So I kind of was at a point where I'm like, and not just myself, I know a lot of us was like, yeah, I know this is intense. This is intense. It's always been this intense. I've always had to look over my shoulder. I've always had to been worried as a Black man, even though I've tried to play it by the book. So like, that's always you're gonna get that regardless. And so it seems like this time around, so many people wanted to learn and wanted to do all these things, when I'm like, these resources have been here. Like, the only thing that has been continuing on has been experiences. Like, yeah, and because we haven't been heard. So like, I think going around for us, it's like, it's not a matter of like, oh, will I choose to teach you or help you out or let you know. Like, there's a lot of unlearning that has to be done first, and me taking my time to tell you about something, yeah, that may be doing you a favor, but how are you going to play telephone and take that to your people? That's always my biggest thing, because I can sit there and go to one person all day long, but if you're not having these conversations in spaces that I'm not in, like, I don't have to be here to co-sign and be like, oh, well, I heard so-and-so and that person said it, so you know what? They're good in my book. No, it doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. Like, so it's really based on, like, this is real life. Like, we have been dealing with this. I've been a Black man my entire life. The stories that my father told me, the stories that his father told him, like, these are things that we have to be ready for as awareness. We can be magical as ever, but we still have to be aware. Like, and so that just really goes back down to it's give and take with me. Like, this has been happening my entire life. So the fact now that you're surprised and wild and want to learn, all right, that's cool. Like, that's why we have schools for that.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, Artis, like, one of the most powerful things I feel like that you did, like, at GoDaddy was everything that you did with Black in Tech. And I remember, like, that panel that you did, I think it was literally like right around a year ago now.
Be heard,
yeah. And well, and that was just such a great space to kind of like touch more people, right? And kind of like educate more people. And even though you're not really, you know, you put a little bit of info on them, and then it's on that person to take that and be like, okay, well, now where do I go from here?
I think
what do I do? What's the next step? Sorry, go ahead.
A great point from that. No, I'm glad you brought that up. It actually wasn't the Be Heard event. It was the event we did actually where we had a lot. We had Dell, we had Google, we had so many different companies who came to speak, and they literally all talked about their Black experiences being in the office. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's more of our positions, like, for us, we know about our experiences already. At some form of way, I know for me, being a historian, being a part of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, being a part of organizations that make it important throughout undergrad for me to grow, or for me to make sure that I'm planting a seed for the next generation. Those are things that I'm doing embedded. So that's just becomes a part of my life. So when it talks about like oh, how can we learn? How can we learn? It's like, I have been an example for you to learn. So it's like, or why do you feel like you can still think of me at this type of way? If I presented to you the best of me, like, what makes you think, or just now dawned on you, or like maybe, or your family? Because I have been hearing also, like, someone was like, well, I've been having this conversation with my family and trying to do this and do that. And it's like, or you're just now having the conversation, or now because it's thought provoking. Like, you can't, it's internalizing for you. So that's where it is. But I think, where this kind of ties into love, like, Black people, we've had to do this for a long time. And that's how we use our Black love. Like, we know that it's strength. We know that union is strength, and we really have to be together, because we also understand that everyone's not going to understand us the way that we understand us, and we've been dealing with that for a while. So to have moments where people are like, wow, we're allies, we want to stand behind, we're grateful for that. But it's not like it just started yesterday and then today you guys decided, let's be allies. So it's like, we've been noticing this for a while. We've been using our love, our union, how we keep each other to smile and laugh and to be joyful and to love this earth that we're on. It took our love, because we understood that everyone wasn't going to get us.
I mean, I feel like with that transition, we can pop back up to some of those other follow-up questions. But Artis, like, do you want to talk a little bit more about like Black love and your I guess not view, but like your experience with that, maybe like what that means to you?
Okay. So my experience, I'm very fortunate because we do live in a system where everyone's not fortunate to have every, mother and father in the home. I was grateful enough to actually experience to have both my grandparents to be married until they went to be on with the Lord, and to still have my parents, together now. But I also realized, like, even having examples of seeing the Obamas, having an example of even seeing fictional characters in the best light, and not just in a slavery or civil rights, So it's like, just kind of being able to kind of live through the time where we do see media progressing, not so much, but we still do see it progressing. I think it's beautiful. I think Black love is real. I think that Black love is, again, it's because of the fact it's strength. A lot of it is subconscious to us now. A lot of us is deeply rooted in us, and the way that we choose to love, and the way that we act on our love, and the way that we think about the people that we love. I think it's just really, it's just like a true Black love is a determination to get through it. Like, it's just the determination to get through it. What is it? It's whatever that union makes it, like whatever they're choosing to be, because there's always some sort of obstacle, that we have to go through, and being able to understand that it was our strength. And I do like this aspect of when you think about like a couple, like a husband and a wife, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they always talk about how, a woman, needs a good man to, stand behind. But what you really noticed, and I think it's throughout, in any race, but for me as a Black man, I'm so grateful to see Black women like in the forefront. Like, you would see Black men next to their, Black women next to their Black men, like understand, holding them down. Like, and even when you see it now, Black women are so smart where they're leading in numbers when it comes to so much in statistics. And so when you really think about that, having the idea of us as a Black man, knowing that there's so much that we go through, the fact of having a Black woman to really sit there and just like the woman and look at how we embody her, like it's a powerful thing, because in America, I mean, honestly, we have to look about it. It took a while before we got prohibition. Like, it took a while before certain things that led up, because they didn't want to make it seem like women were smart. But for me, I've been proven time and time again that the Black woman was the one who was going to get the job done. Like, so, and so I love that in those aspects of relationships, when I wasn't able to always see that, like, when living in America and watching how women had to overcome so much when they're, in my opinion, are the smartest.
I mean, mic drop, Erin. Let's go.
Why, thank you.
And like,
yeah, to touch on that, I also grew up, like, both my parents are African American, and they're also immigrants. I'm first generation. American. Both my parents originated in Ghana, which is in West Africa. And Black love was so important because they both experienced a lot living in the US. And they were able, like, my dad understood everything my mom was going through. My mom understood everything my dad was going through. If something happened at work, like my dad didn't get that promotion and it was obvious on why he didn't get that promotion, my mom could relate. If something happened with my mom, whether it was her accent or the color of her skin, like crazy, my mom has, like, where we grew up is predominantly there was like 4 other Black people where I grew up, and 2 of them were my brothers. So my mom would be asked questions like, how far do you drive to get to work? Because no one expected her to live in Laguna. Everyone thought she drove from LA to get to work, and just experiences like that. And whereas I've experienced those things, and if I were to talk to someone who was not Black about those experiences, they wouldn't understand. They can say, I'm sorry you went through that, but they don't understand. And so growing up in that household where my dad could support my mom in things she went through, and my mom could support my dad on things he went through, that's Black love to me, is just having that support in the hardships that you go through in life. And so, yeah.
I agree. I had similar kind of upbringing. I'm lucky enough that, my parents, are still married to this day. I think they're going on, 38 years, I think is going to be their next anniversary. So I was always very lucky and very happy to have both my parents in the home. And I saw exactly what both Erin and Artis are talking about. My mom especially, like, really held it down, like, for us, because my dad, he had a dream that he wanted to get, his college education. Like, he wanted to get his college degree, like, after they were already married with children. But, for him, in order to, establish the career that he needed to support his family, he had to work the job that he was working, but also go to college, like take college classes, get his engineering degree. And, so my mom definitely, like, held everything down, because she also was somebody who worked full time. So she's working full time, taking care of the kids, maintaining the household, and really holding it down for him so he could go to school and achieve, his dream, because it's just all for the betterment of the family. And just, I really like what Artis said about it, like, whatever it is, like, there's some obstacle, whether it is you need to get your education, you need to, secure a better income, you need to, whatever it is, you have to do something for your children. Like, everybody is able to get, through it, like, and seeing, like, that Black love, and still seeing it to this day, because now you kind of see, like, the fruits of that labor. Like, now they are retired, they have, their dream home, like, they're able to, relax and really enjoy all the hard work that they've done, and pass that on, now to my sister and I, to, kind of continue the lessons that we learned, like, from them, and hopefully move forward, like, in our lives. So, yeah.
Thank you all for sharing that. Like, I'm not, like, it's chilly in Austin, but, like, I keep getting chills just because everything y'all are saying, like, I'm just really thankful you guys are opening up to us and sharing these things, because these are, like, very important things to share, right? These are really personal stories, and I think it's hard to do that. Okay, so I think it's something that I think is interesting is, like, Marie and I, as 2 white women, we actually, like, for both of us, our parents are divorced and remarried. But it's something that I think I'm like, I wonder if in some situations, like, because of, like, what you guys said, like, you've essentially said, like, your parents are also together. I wonder if part of that is that there's, like, such a deep connection that comes from being able to understand, I don't want to say, like, the same trauma, but, like, being able to understand the same experience to such a deep level where, like, Artis, you said, you're like, I've been Black my whole life. This didn't start in 2020, right? And so I just think it's, like, it's so, and this isn't a thing I figured out before we recorded, like, you guys just shared all this, but I wonder if it's, like, one of those things where it's, like, part of it is that having that deep understanding connection of life experience that and this wasn't even going to be a transition, but as we transition into interracial dating, right? Like, so if I were to, date a Black man, or like if Erin were to date a white guy, or whatever the situation is, it's not the same. Like, it really, truly isn't the same. And that's one thing that I feel like a lot of white people don't get, is like, we don't get it. And when I say we don't get it, I don't mean like, oh, we're not trying to do our best. Like, we didn't experience that. We don't understand it. We've never experienced that. Like, and that can go down a whole different path. But like, I think that's one of those things where that does create like maybe a deeper connection, where it's like Erin, like you were saying, if your dad didn't get a promotion, like your mom could relate to why, because maybe 2 years ago she had the same thing happen. So maybe to like segue, at least segue, segue into like interracial dating, if y'all are cool with that. Marie, do you want to like start one of the questions here?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we did kind of have on this list, like, what does Black love mean to you? And I feel like without actually outright asking that question, we actually got the answer, which I think is awesome. And I so appreciate all of you for that. So this is interesting too, especially like for us being like white women. What are some things to you that are like really important when it comes to dating somebody outside of your race? Because it is really important for that person in order to like really have this like robust relationship that you guys have touched on, that your parents have had, that is your example of like Black love. How can another person, like, how can they really understand some of those struggles that you guys have seen here or that you've gone through? Is there, if there's not an answer to that, also that's totally cool. Because I know that's like kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's the question?
Okay, so sorry. The question in short is, so let's imagine like you're dating somebody outside of your race. Is there a way, and if so, what is that way, to really be able to like effectively communicate and feel like that person that you're dating can fully understand some of these struggles that you guys have faced uniquely as being like Black Americans?
I think maybe understanding that they won't always completely understand. I think that's the thing. I think, I think it's kind of like you're not.
That's a fair answer.
I mean, because just think of any time like you're with, your partner, whoever it is, and you're confiding them or explaining something to them. You're not necessarily looking for them to fix it. You know what I mean? For them to tell you, oh, well, it's going to be okay. Or, because what I found sometimes, and using interracial dating as an example, is that sometimes that desire to fix can kind of turn into gaslighting, unintentionally, of course, because you're explaining and something that happened to like as a Black man, like, oh, I was at the store, somebody grabbed their purse, like when I came down the aisle, and of course, like, because you don't see me, as a threat or whatever, you might say something like, oh, that's probably not why they grabbed their purse, or oh, they probably would have grabbed that for anybody. It probably had nothing to do with you being.
Speak on it, brother.
Yeah. I mean, but unfortunately that turns into gaslighting, because now you are kind of invalidating my lived experience that I'm telling you about, so I understand that it might be coming from a good place, that desire. Like I just want him to feel better, like that really sucks and I want him to feel better. But it's also like, sometimes you just want to be heard. Like you just want to be able to be heard and be validated. And so I think like that would be what I would want, like from my partner, if I were, having that conversation with them. I wouldn't want them to tell me, like, well, it's okay, other people like you, even though you're Black. Like, I don't need that. Like, I just need for you to understand that my lived experience is real, and just kind of, sit with me, like, in that.
Well, and also I want to say too, like, just speaking, knowing like, and also right now hearing some of these experiences, sometimes you're left speechless, right? So is that technically, like, would you feel like if somebody you were intimate with, would you feel like that's a negative? Or if they're left speechless, like, is that okay? How do we deal with that?
Yeah, for me, yeah, that actually would be okay, because I think like that, I don't know, like for me, I'd almost maybe prefer that kind of like, maybe like just like, if they just like grab your hand or like put their arm around, be like, I can't understand like, how that feels. Like I don't know what to say, so I'm just gonna, like I said, just be with you, just kind of be there with the person. So I think like speechless sometimes it might even be better. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know.
Erin, would you like to go?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everything Dante said was exactly like, understand that you'll never understand, but also just be there to listen. And just because the reason why I'm with you is because you're not an ignorant person. So I understand that you wouldn't feel that way towards me, but those experiences still happen in my life, So just be there, be understanding, be the person I can talk to, and understand that you won't know how it feels. But also understand, like in my case, like the person I'm with, like my goal is to have children. Whoever I have children with, they're going to be brown, they're going to be Black, they're going to be African American, no matter who I have children with. So my experiences are going to be our children's experiences. So you have to be understanding. And you have to be able to have these conversations, because, I mean, God willing, that it doesn't happen. My children aren't going through these experiences, but the way history is going, they will. So just be that person that I can talk to, because your kids will be having these same conversations with you.
Artis, I feel like I was going to say, Artis, I feel like you had something to follow.
Just to make sure I'm within the context, this is talking about interracial dating, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't date outside of my race. And I believe there is a wholehearted reason to that. It's not that I haven't tried to talk before or even thought someone was attractive. I remember when I was younger, I thought Britney Spears was kind of cute, but my whole thing is me learning, taking the time I mentioned earlier, how I'm a historian, learning more about self, also learning more about who I am. And I think what's important about that is not every Black person, it's fortunate when you do have a Black person who's able to learn about themselves young and have a lot of those experiences. Not everyone's not like that. There's come through a time where if you are that Black kid that the majority of your neighbors were, white, people you went to school with was majority white, there's a lot that you had to deal with where maybe someone said nigga to your face and you had to laugh it off because you didn't want to come off as difficult or anything like that. And so when you come through a mindset where you feel comfortable, you're almost afraid of your own race because you don't know how to interact or deal with them because you've been put in a different environment so long. I mean, it's something will spark something in you when you have the opportunity to, learn about yourself and go to a HBCU and actually be around us and learn and fall in love with Black women. Like it's different, but also understanding that it's a lot that's systematic that we deal with in this world. And a lot of that is there's more Black people who live in America who don't really know their identity of where their Blackness comes from. And so if I know that I'm able to take that opportunity to love another Black woman and to have a Black family, and I get to right that wrong with my kids, I'm going to do it.
Amen. I feel like Artis just described my whole childhood.
I think Artis is just all the mic drops.
Yeah.
We kind of fucked up by not having Paul on this episode to do the sound effects. Like he can do mic drop sound effects and stuff like that,
and applause and all that.
So I mean, we could literally go down so many tracks with all of this, but when it comes to like interracial dating in general, like Erin, Dante, if y'all do date us what, I don't know. I'm like, if y'all date white people, at least occasionally, or just like outside of the Black race, like, have y'all had any specific like experiences or struggles or anything that you'd like to share with that? Because like, again, I mean, of course, like people think they're like, oh, I understand. It's like, no, you don't. That's the first thing. Like for anyone listening to this, like for anyone listening to this episode, if you are a white person, we will never understand. We will never grasp. We will never be able to even like begin to get it, because like to be like, I've never been afraid of a police officer, right? Like, and we're not gonna dive into that, but I was listening to one of the links Marie sent me earlier, and it's like, I've never had to be afraid of a police officer, and there are people who have always had to be afraid of a police officer, and that like breaks my heart. But moving like away from that, it's like anyone who says, oh, I understand you, we don't, we have not lived that experience. It's really important for any white person to recognize, like, we don't know that experience. We don't live that experience. The best we can do is listen and learn. And then like Dante said, like, listen and like be there for a hug, right? Or like be there and know we don't know what that feels like, but support and be there and listen. And that's like, you know, what we can do, right? Like that's it. So like, I don't know, going to
well, I mean,
as we all stare at you.
But I totally get what you're saying, and to answer your question, I guess, regarding at least my own experience when it comes to interracial dating. I mean, the Black population in Austin, Texas is what, like maybe 7%, 8%, something like that. So, and then when you get into, you know, now you take that 7-8%, and now you ask how many of them are single gay men. So for me, it just numbers wise, if I'm looking to date here in Austin, it is highly likely that individuals I encounter on the apps are not all going to be Black. So interracial dating is just, you know, it's something that happens. And, you know, and I've tried, you know, other apps. I have tried the BLK app, you know, but the thing about it is, I think because it's so new, there's not a lot of people on it. And even the people who I do come into contact with, it seems like a lot of bots are still there. So it's like one picture, one fuzzy picture, like on there, no profile, and, you know, 400 miles away. So, you know, but, you know, it's okay. We keep trying, we keep swiping. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Just keep swiping.
Maybe they'll get the bugs. They'll get the bugs worked out of the app soon, and it'll start being real people and not just, you know, bots.
Someday. So Dante, do you have any specific or even like general experiences that you've personally had with interracial dating in the community that you're in that you would like to share or talk about?
I mean, I've definitely had like the experience of where when you know it's not a fit, like you know it's not a fit when you're having, especially now in the times, you know, that we're in, you know, like, you know, I'm kind of like, you know, Artis. I tell people all the time, you know, I've been Black a long time. So the things that are happening, you know, are not new or shocking to me. So when you try to have a conversation with someone who you may be on like a first date with or what have you, and then, you know, they say those three little words, you know, all lives matter. That's when you know it's not a fit. I gotta go. You know, I mean, this is great. So I definitely have had like those experiences where they, you know, will say things like, I actually had somebody one time say to me, you know, well, why are Black people so angry? Slavery was a long time ago. I was like, first of all, we're not angry. Black people have a lot of joy in our lives, and you know, so, and you know, take that away from us. But you know, a point that I've had to make to people is that, you know, I don't know how everybody is, but you know, for me, you know, my parents are children of the civil rights movement. Like, we are the first generation that has had integration from birth. Like, so this whole idea of, but it was so long ago, it wasn't. Like, you know, like my father and like, you know, like Maria or Michelle, like my father and your father wouldn't have been able to go into a restaurant, sit down and have lunch together, So I think that has kind of been like, something difficult, like to work through, when you kind of get, that whole kind of diminishing like that experience. But, for the most part, if people are actually filling out their profiles, honestly, you can kind of weed out, some of them fools and not even like, you won't even swipe right on them. Like, I think, there definitely are telltale signs in a profile that this is not something I'm about to deal with. So,
And I'm looking at you, but you can't see it. This is the downside of like not being in the room together.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Dante. I mean, and I've touched on where I grew up, and I've told you there was like literally my elementary school, there were two of them, two Black people. It was me, my friend Coleman, and then by the time my brother was old enough to get into elementary school, it was my brother. So the pool of Black men was very limited for me. So in order to date, it had to be outside of my race or just online, the MySpace dating from random people. But so in Austin, like I know Dante said it's like 7% Black, but me, I have Black neighbors. Like that's never been a thing for me. Or like going to the Domain. It's wild to me and I love it. And there's a pool, but I do date interracially. I have dated white men and I have dated Black men. I would say I've had positive experiences. Like I had an ex who, my parents are Ghanaian and he knew a lot. I don't know how, I don't know who taught him about fufu, but he knew a lot about the food and the culture without it being like a conversation. And so he could have conversations with my parents. Like, and it wasn't fake. It wasn't like he was on Google the day before, Wikipedia, taking notes, like to talk to my parents. It was genuine knowledge. So I've had great experiences. And then I've had experiences with, especially with family. Like once I start meeting your family and they're saying crazy things like your Uncle Billy, if Uncle Billy is saying crazy things, like I'm out, because love is love and love can get you so far. But if you come from a family that has crazy opinions, like I want to get along with my significant other's parents or families. Like I'm not willing to kind of be like, I love you, I care about you, that I'm not gonna tolerate it. And so it's been like, I appreciate Black love just because I've been told things like, from different people, like, I can't wait for you to have babies. Like, you're going to have mixed kids and like, they're going to be so beautiful. And I'm like, no matter who I have kids with, they're going to be beautiful. So like, I would love, I would love to have children that look just like me so I can tell them they're beautiful every day. So for Black love, like that's kind of why I kind of steer towards that, because I want to have beautiful Black babies and to be able to tell them they're beautiful. And for the people who are telling me like, I'll have beautiful mixed kids, like I want my Black baby, like send you pictures of my Black babies every week. So, but I am open. I'm a people person. I like am all about personality. Michelle knows when I describe my type. I mean, it's changed. It used to be 6'5", like funny. Like it's changed. I've given up on the 6'5". I've brought it to 6'2".
Erin used to love athletes.
Yeah, I had a bad athlete moment in my time.
Love athletes.
Who doesn't love an athlete?
I mean, I love
a person.
I love a former. I'm like, you were an athlete 20 years ago. That's fine. Let's go.
You played Little League. You're my type. Like.
You've been into no one here knows what a G.I. Joe's is. That's a Northwest reference. Sports. I'm
like polite laugh.
Yeah, if you play basketball, whoa, like that's all you need. That's my preference.
Well, I mean, does it count if it's like a video game? Like you played NBA Jam like one time like that? That's basketball. That counts. You're an athlete.
Yeah. My type.
You're an athlete. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, like I'm open to dating people outside of my race, but there's times where I'm like tired, like even just hair, like black hair in general. Like that might be the reason why I'm staying inside my race, because I'm over describing it. I'm over telling you why my hair was kinky yesterday and not kinky today. Like I don't need to, I don't like that. Like I don't like constantly explaining, and that goes with the educating. Or like every time I do something different with my hair, it's like an announcement. Whereas like, Marie, you do something to your hair, I'm telling you your hair looks nice today. I'm not like, oh, you got a new weave today? Oh, you washed your hair yesterday? Like, you know, like I'm not doing that. So those are like black men, they grow up with their mothers, like they understand. My little brothers helped my mom take her hair out. Like he know, like they know, you know? So that's kind of something else that is, because hair is a big deal to a black woman. So it takes up a lot of my time. So I'm not going to spend any more time explaining it. So that's just another reason.
I do want to say your hair looks wonderful, which is what I said when you first jumped on. I was like, girl, you look so good. And your hair looks fantastic today. So
yeah, we were both like, damn girl, like you're showing up for this.
Maria only sees me like in the morning where I'm like just rolled out of bed, like taking my dog out to pee, like haven't washed my face, might not have brushed my teeth, like.
But y'all check us on YouTube and see how good Erin's hair looks.
This is for all the neighbors.
She's single. Basically, our show is actually a cover for like, well, for helping people find matches. I was gonna say pimping people out, and I'm not. We'll retract that.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Anyways, moving right along.
So, in terms of interracial dating, have y'all ever had experiences where you've been like semi-seriously dating someone outside of your race and like so basically interracial dating and family? Like I know Erin, you touched on this a little bit. You said your mom was like, oh, you know, talking about maybe black men, but like I'm just curious, have y'all ever had to deal with scenarios where you were dating someone outside of your race and sorry, my neighbor is apparently running a horse race upstairs, which is awesome. Yeah, interracial dating and family. Like, have y'all had particular stories or things that stand out or struggles that with that?
No, because my family has their own issues with who I date anyway, so no one has ever been taken home to meet my family of any race. So,
Dante, you can be my family.
I will be happy to introduce you as I'll introduce you as my sister Michelle whenever I meet someone.
I will adopt you / be your sister, and anyone you introduce me to, I will give them a big ol' hug and love them as much as they, unless they're dicks. If they're rude to you, then I'll fucking kick them in the face.
Well, yeah, hey, that is the other side of it that I definitely, want friends who have my back and be like, so for sure.
I got you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Dante, my parents are waiting for one of their kids to bring someone home, so you can definitely use my parents. Okay. Like you can. I nominate you.
Oh, thank you. Well, then, yeah, good.
Somebody.
Dante,
we'll have a lot of stops to make.
Dante is now bringing home his date to Erin's parents. Yeah. I love this. I love what we've done here. It's it's like date my mom, but a very different variation of it.
Yeah, we had a different kind of match today. So sounds good. I will definitely be bringing someone. We'll knock on the door and we'll come in. We'll hang out.
My parents are very surprisingly, because their culture and their religion, I expected them to be a little more strict. And I don't know if it's because I don't really bring anyone home, so they don't care at this point. but just growing up, like whether it was, as long as I'm happy and the person that I'm with is making me happy, they're understanding. Just being African, like that also, like I have cousins who their parents want them to bring home an African. It's not even just like a Black person. It's African, and not even just African, it's Ghanaian. Like it can't be Nigerian. So I know a lot of my cousins have been limited on like, or not even limited because they'll do whatever they want, but they get a lot of feedback from their parents, and African parents are very vocal. But my parents have always been understanding, have always been welcoming, and which I'm very surprised. And it's only my dating life. Anything else, they're not that much understanding, but it's always been cool. The only experience I've had is when I do date interracial with their families. Like that's the experience that I've had. But on my parents' side, they're surprisingly really cool.
Well, transitioning from that, does anyone have like a funny or ridiculous dating story that they're willing to share with us? Oh, I know Dante does. Oh, he's shaking his head. Erin, since you were still like going, do you have any like specific, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be like interracial dating or this or that, but like, do you just have any like funny or ridiculous stories that you're willing to share to kind of start to wrap this up?
Yeah, just in general, I'm a really bad texter. I was like talking to someone, I don't know what I did, but I saved their number as somebody else. Like I thought I was talking to somebody else. Bringing them from Hinge to my phone book, they were saved under somebody else. So I thought I was talking to somebody else. Actually went on a date with someone that I didn't realize was another person. But I ended up dating him for like a couple months. Like we dated for a minute, but I did not know that was who I was going on a date with. I didn't, yeah.
I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, it was a bad, I'm surprised we dated for so long because I not only then, it was when I first moved to Austin, took an Uber to the wrong location that had closed. Then like, what was it called? It was Trudy's. It's a Mexican restaurant called Trudy's. And I went to the one next to the college, the local college, and next to UT. And I guess that one closed. It was actually the Trudy's in South Austin. So I was an hour late to the date. I don't know why he was still there. Then it was not who I like literally thought I was going on a date with. But it was cool. We were cool. I hope he doesn't listen to this because I never told him that I didn't realize I was going on a date with him. But yeah, we dated for like a couple months.
So you continued it. So he never realized.
No.
You didn't. Did you say anything that you think would have been like a giveaway that he wasn't the person you thought he was? No. Okay, because I was like, if you said like, oh, you're really into hockey, and he like wasn't into hockey for whatever reason, and he just played along, that would be even more crazy. Because then he's
thank
fucking
God.
shitty. That's crazy.
I'm wondering like how if he wasn't the person that you expected to go on a date with, like how did you recognize him like when you got to the Trudy's? Like did you?
Good question.
So we were talking, and I said, like, I delete Hinge really quickly. Mm-hmm. So I had messaged, like, the couple people I was still talking to that I was actually having a decent conversation. Like, someone had pissed me off on Hinge, like, had said something like, can you twerk? Like, literally. And that touches on this whole conversation. I was like, delete. So I messaged the few people I was talking to that I enjoyed a conversation with, like, I'm deleting the app, but, like, here's my number. Like, let's talk. And one guy gave me his number and I saved it as somebody else. In my head, like I thought he was somebody else. But it was a quick, like he asked me out super quick. So it wasn't even like our conversation with text was that long to give me like enough time to say the wrong thing, like that I was talking to the wrong person. But I recognized him when I saw him. I was just like, oh, this isn't this guy, not this guy. And I still was interested in him in the first place. So it was fine. It's just not who I had expected.
So you weren't like calling him the wrong name.
No.
You were like, hey, Dante, when his name was Artis.
It was not, thank God. Oh man, that's like just an on-brand moment for Erin though.
I was gonna say, Marie's like, that's crazy. And I'm like, that's literally something that could happen to me like today.
Yeah.
But I'm a special kind of psycho. Dante, I know you have loads of stories. Artis, do you have anything you want to share? The answer can also be no, but I want to. I want you to open up just a tiny bit. Like if you have a funny or ridiculous story.
I think my love life is so dry, so that's why I'm over here like just I don't have that much stories for you. But I think my problem is, it's like when I'm single, not talking to anyone. All right, there's no one around, no one. Not under the chair, under the bed, behind the pillow. No one's here. As soon as somebody starts acting like they're interested in me and I'm interested in them as well, that's when everybody and their mama want to come out the woodworks, like want to start talking to me. So I'm like, what type of magnet I got going on? So I gotta get my seasons together.
No, that is literally normal. I was like, I'm kind of interested in this person for like a minute. And then I was like 5 people came out of the woodwork and I'm like, you fucking ghosted me and now you're trying to like, now you want to hang out.
There's some sort of alarm that goes off for people that like were ever interested in you even a little bit, that they're like, oh yeah, let me do this. Also Artis, I'm like, I know in Artis, I feel like one of the things that you and I had talked about was just like history and like Black love and all of that. Is, do you have any like final notes or anything that you would want to add that we haven't already touched on? You're on mute, babe.
You're on mute, babe. Nope, still on mute.
Thanks.
He's got nothing to say because he's on mute. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I just said it. I'm just playing. As far as I think, for the most part, you guys may not know, but I'm literally centered around a Black couple right now. I have someone who's engaged to an interracial couple, and I have another friend here. Like, so literally just listening to this conversation, I think it sparked for them to have like their own conversations to talk about their experiences. And I think the biggest lesson to really take from this is that we are talking about our lives, our actual experiences, not something that we wrote down in a book, not something that became a fairy tale. But we're talking about our experiences and how we chose to overcome it. And that's with love, through love, Black love.
Hell yeah.
Dante, any final thoughts? Also, Dante, we have a follow-up already. Like,
oh yeah,
we're structuring a follow-up for you because you have a very specific point of view. Just so you know, because you and I have talked about some really specific things that we didn't get to touch on today, but any final thoughts on where we ended up today?
I've had a great time. I'm so glad y'all invited me to participate. It was great, meeting everybody and I agree with Artis. This is our experiences. That's definitely something that I wanted to say, to put out there. This is just my own personal experience. I'm not necessarily saying this is the experience of every Black person on the apps. This is not necessarily just because things were said to me doesn't necessarily mean that, that all non-Black people say this to Black people on the apps, or we've all gone through this. It's just my, lived experience, the things that I've gone through, and that I, just share with other people, just to kind of, help people kind of understand maybe, like you said, a unique point of view that maybe they don't have because they're not experiencing the apps in the way that we are, perhaps, or the way that I am. So I thought this was great. This is really enlightening. And I, hope for more conversations like this in the future.
Yay. Oh yeah. Silent
Mic
clap.
drops.
No, I love it. No, yeah. I definitely, I think this was something that's, to be honest, Marie and I were, I don't want to say nervous, but we really wanted to approach this from a space of respect and sharing. We wanted y'all to I don't want to say dominate, but like we wanted your voices to be heard, like your stories. We wanted to make sure this wasn't like, we're like, hey, we're gonna, talk about this topic that like we literally have no experience like relating to. Like, I just want to say I'm super thankful for how open y'all have been. I'm super thankful for the way y'all have like interacted with each other and just being here with us. And also, I'm sorry, Blue is just like looking at me like a little child. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential for follow up and just like diving into this even like deeper. And ultimately, Artis said something earlier that I thought was really interesting. And he was like, hey, like I'll have this conversation with you, but are you then like disseminating this information? Are you then you're taking an hour of my time, right? Like not, and you didn't say it in a bad way, but like I'm giving you an hour of my time. I'm telling you where I'm coming from. Are you then going to take that to, and these are not your words, but like in my head, it's like, okay, am I then going to take that to my white friends or my family or, other people who I think need to understand that, right? And it's like figuring out how to, like for Marie and I, a challenge, and we'll take this offline, is like figuring out how we can be better at taking the thing is it's like not even information, like there's so much just like heart and energy that comes out of these conversations, right? Like it's not even just expelling like, hey, here's me reading you a book. It's like, hey, I'm sharing a part of myself. Like y'all have all shared a part of yourselves today, which is why I'm like emotional. I don't get emotional. I'm a fuckboy. I'm like, I don't know, Marie, you end this. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna cry or like take a shot. I don't know what to do.
I will say though, Michelle, like honestly, the best thing that you can do is to just make sure that your friends or family who support you are supporting your podcast. They're watching this because they're going to have these thoughts, they're going to have these things, and they're going to start the conversation with you if it is a conversation worth having to them. So again, like it's making sure that the people that that's supporting you, like, I mean, honestly, this is a conversation where they can get the moment and it doesn't even have to be that difficult for you. Like, so, and then once they do start to have those conversations, you just know how to, now that you have been educated or learned to, this is not even just for you to say, oh snap, I'm going to go now take this to the next person. Maybe this is a particular subject or something from this conversation really sparked for you to want to do some self-reflection or research or some sort of anything on your own. Then you can take that information on. So.
Yeah. And I think, well, an artist, like that's such a good point because it's definitely like what we kind of like want this platform to be, right? Like we want other people to be able to listen and be able to start those conversations. And so that almost being like an action point, a CTA. And I think also just artists, like you're gonna love this, like feeling comfortable or getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like we talked about so much at GoDaddy, like because, and I think about, we were binging like uncomfortable conversations with a Black man, and those conversations are so powerful. Conversations like this are so powerful, but I feel like the reason a lot of people don't want to have them is literally because they make them feel some type of way. And so understanding that like what you like the world that you're living in, no matter what world that is, whether you're, Black, white, brown, Asian, like whatever, you're living in this world, and to just kind of understand what this other point of view is and to like understand and also approach it in a respectful way. I know like that's really what we're here for. I hope anybody listening at the end of the day, that's kind of what they're getting out of this.
I think that's what they gain from this. honestly, I think it was just a moment to actually have a conversation. I'll even be honest. I was a little hesitant in the beginning to kind of figure out like what approach, because we've all been in conversations. I'm sure that Dante and Erin can agree. We've been in conversations where it's like, are we really getting through? Or it's like, oh, it's one of these moments. Okay, bet. So like, I do appreciate y'all, because the fact that, I was able to, get some of my thoughts across and really like gain some stuff. Like I even took away some stuff from this, hearing from their experiences. So appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you giving us the just jumping on with us.
Now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cry.
I know. I'm like, oh.
We're gonna do a little wrap. Maria will cut this. We're gonna do a little wrap, and then I'm gonna stop recording, and then we can all kind of like just chat and debrief. So it's not like you don't have. I mean, if anyone has to go, you're welcome to go. But we typically like cut the recording and then we'll chat. But Marie, where can people find us?
So we are Swipe N the City, letter N the City, everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. Me personally at Marie R. Carlson. Michelle, where are people finding you?
At M. Craig PDX. Erin, how can someone find you on Instagram?
Erinsimone, so ErinSimone.
Dante.
Find me on Instagram at Dante_ATX or DANTE_ATX.
Artis.
You can find me Instagram at rusticreign. That's RUSTICREIGN. Or you can just type in Artis X and I'll pop up.
Ooh, look at that quick search. Well, on that note, thank you once again for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next week.
Bye. Cheers.